right. I'm going to go ahead and get everyone checked in. So I see that we have, as I call your name, if you could just unmute and let me know who you're representing here today, whether you're part of the application team or someone from the community or neighboring property owner or someone else. So Eric Sears, just Mr. Sears, if you could unmute.
Sorry, with Kroger.
Okay, great. Mr. Sears, I can see you're in your car, which is not a problem, but I would just ask that you remain stationary and not drive during the hearing.
I have pulled off to the side and I am safely in a parking lot.
Been doing virtual hearings now for about 4 years, and I've seen it all. So I just wanted to make sure to give you that reminder there. So we also have Ann McBride with us. Hi, Ann.
Hey, David, how are you? I want to know why is my face so red on this thing today? But that's neither here nor there. You know what I look like.
Yeah, can't answer that, but welcome you nonetheless.
Thank you.
Sure. We also have Wes Menzel from the City Zoning Department. Welcome, Wes.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Or is it afternoon now?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Halfway done with the day. All right. Ann, are you expecting anyone else to join us here on the applicant owner side?
No, this is it.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. I need to read through our hearing script. This basically just cover the procedure for the hearing. Then we'll get started. So this is the April 17th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. Again, I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city. The case before us today is case number ZH20240029. That's 2120 Beechmont Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony or evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. I'll hear from the zoning department and Mr. Menzel to add any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make the closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there is some defect that prevents us from me fully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, now I just need to swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony during this hearing, the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if that's you, if you could take yourself off of mute, I need everyone to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Oh, I do. Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. I lost my feed or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no, we heard you. Mr. Sears?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. I think we're ready to get going here. Ann, will you be taking the lead or will Mr. Sears?
I will be doing that if that's okay.
And I apologize for calling you Ann. I sort of seen you so many times here, get a bit informal. So
that's quite all right. We've known each other for quite a while and quite a number of hearings. So at any rate. So today we're here to talk about the Kroger store in Mount Washington on Beechmont Avenue. That store was built in 1999, and it's about a 60,000 square foot store that serves the Mount Washington community. I happen to know because I did the zone change on it so many years ago. Right now, Kroger would like to do a $1.8 million remodel of that store. Some of the modifications that would be included would be an update to the signage, which we're going to talk about in a minute, modifications to the front, west and north elevations, expansion of both the produce section, beer and wine sections, and other areas, new restrooms, those kinds of things. At the time that Kroger wanted to build that center, the city was absolutely adamant that that store be placed in the corner of Corbly and Beechmont. It was Mr. Stein's idea that that's where that should go. So that was not Kroger's original idea for the site. But so the store did end up being at the corner of Beechmont and Corbly. But what that does is it puts the front elevation, the south elevation of the building, which faces the parking lot, which is the customer access point into the store, without any street frontage. So as you all know, the zoning code only allows wall signage on building elevations with street frontage. Right now, the store has signage both on the south, the part that faces the parking lot, on the west, the Beechmont Avenue side, as well as the north, which is the Corbly Avenue side. Right now, in terms of existing signage, Mr. Starkey, the front or the south elevation that we're going to be talking about today has a total of 424.7 square feet of sign area, and that's divided up between a Kroger food and drug sign, which is 402 square feet, a liquor sign that's 16 square feet, and then an RX pickup window, which is 6.1 square feet. Their pickup window, unlike other stores that I think you and I have talked about previously, is actually a walk-up window, excuse me, for customers, not a drive-through window. We are proposing on that south elevation, the one that fronts the parking lot, that is actually the front of the store, a total of 208.1 square feet of sign area. That would include a Kroger sign, which has their new Fresh Cart logo, which is 141 square feet. The new Ohio Liquor sign, which is 67.1 square feet. They would also be having another pharmacy walk-up window, but that sign would be 6 square feet, which I believe Mr. Munzo will confirm does not count towards signage since it is 6 square feet. It's more considered directional signage. So again, going from 424.7 square feet down to 208.1 square feet. Right now, there are Kroger ovals that are, I think, original, honestly, to the building when we did the original store. And they would like to replace those with the Kroger new Fresh Cart logo. And those will be going on Beechmont, on Corbly, and then there's also a frontage on Salvador that's visible from Corbly. Those all meet the zoning code requirements, but just to give you information on that. We are needing, well, let me just back up for a minute. So right now, the total sign area on the whole store is 685.1 square feet. Or I'm sorry, that's the proposed sign area. They are permitted a total by code of 716 square feet of sign area. So we're actually going to be under what we're permitted to have, but we just need consideration and variances to allow us to locate it on an elevation that does not have street frontage. So the variances that we are requesting consideration of this afternoon, this morning, depending on how you look at noon, is for that south side of the store where no signage is allowed. I'm sorry, east side of the store where no signage is allowed. So the first variance is to allow signage on that elevation, which is not permitted to have signage, to allow 2 signs on the elevation, which is not permitted to have any signage, and then to allow the elevation, which is not permitted any signage, to have a total of 208.1 square feet of sign area. So then to go through just some of your standards that are contained within your zoning code pursuant to section 1445-13, the general standards for public interest. As you know, I always like to run through that, and if that's appropriate, I would go ahead and do that again today. In terms of zoning, with the exception of the request that we're asking for consideration of today, everything else about the property conforms with the CCP district in which it's located. Store will conform with any guidelines that are adopted by council, again, with the exception of the requests that are being made to you this morning. In terms of applicable plans, there is a Mount Washington comprehensive plan. It was done in April, or adopted, I should say, in April of 2007. It does designate the subject property, and all of the properties for that matter, on Beechmont as mixed-use commercial. And an objective of that plan was to improve existing building facades. That plan does list it was then new Kroger store as an accomplishment, and to improve existing building facades was included in the economic development goal section of that plan. With regards to Plan Cincinnati, Mount Washington area, Kroger is a part of, is identified as a neighborhood center. And the principle of the plan is to focus revitalization on existing centers of activities, which Mount Washington would be considered per the plan Cincinnati. There's to be no impact to traffic. The store is not being increased in size, and the scope of the store is not being changed. There'll be no impact to buffering. There would be no change to landscaping on the site. The hours of the store are from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. In terms of neighborhood compatibility, the Kroger store has been a fixture in Mount Washington since it opened in 1999, and it was developed in the compatibility with the neighborhood business district. In terms of adverse effects, we don't see any adverse effects to that. And in fact, the fact that we are decreasing the sign area on the store by 52%, we think is an improvement from an aesthetic standpoint as the community would see it. The store is obviously not blighted at this point in time, and the $1.8 million reinvestment in the store by Kroger contributes to the fact that it's not going to become blighted. It is an economic development, it is an economic benefit to the Mount Washington community. An awful lot of those Kroger customers do walk to the store. There's a surrounding residential community, and they do depend on that store. So it's important that it remain there. In terms of job creation, Kroger anticipates that between 5 and 10 new associate positions will be created with the remodeling, and obviously there's going to be a construction employment in addition to that. In terms of tax valuation, that's a significant reinvestment into the store. So obviously Kroger understands that the property value is liable to be increased for property tax purposes. In terms of private benefits, obviously Kroger will benefit from increased, we hope, customer usage, but the proposed improvements really are going to be a benefit to those Kroger customers. Again, many of whom depend on that store for the pharmacy and so forth, and walk to that store. And in terms of the public benefits, as I mentioned, there's a $1.8 million reinvestment going into the store to maintain the quality of that store. There's a reduction in the sign area, particularly on that southern elevation, which is the front elevation of the store. And the remodel of the store is also going to add additional employment to the area. In terms of Section 1445-15 standards for variances, there are special circumstances that pertain to this property that don't pertain to other properties in the area. And that is that the front elevation of the store, as I've mentioned, is oriented toward the parking field at the request of the city of Cincinnati and does not have street frontage. Again, we will be decreasing the amount of signage on the area. So we feel that the requests that are before you today are reasonable, and they are necessary to allow the project to move forward. We did, just one other item, meet with the Mount Washington Community Council on March 20th, 2024. They did vote separately to approve all 3 variances, and I believe you have a letter submitted from them. So with that, if you have any other questions, Mr. Turkey, about our request, I'd be happy to answer those.
Just, excuse me, just a couple questions. One, just to confirm, this is the relief necessary is only for the south side facing the parking lot, correct?
That's correct.
The other new signage is compliant.
That's correct.
And the new signage is more compliant than the existing signage.
That's also correct.
Got it. And I saw this is in a urban design overlay district, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so I assume that this complies then with all the standards of the urban design overlay district.
I don't believe it's in an urban design overlay. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but and maybe Mr. Munzel could jump in on that.
Yeah, Wes, feel free to jump in if you'd like.
Sure. The site is in the Mount Washington Urban Design Overlay, and as far as signage, there are different standards for signage in the Urban Design Overlay, but the proposed signage conforms to the requirements. Like there's no flashing signage, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so it conforms to the design standards within that overlay. And so this is just the underlying zoning district variance standards. Got it.
And I stand corrected. It is in the UDO, and I knew that. Where I got a little bit flustered here this morning was the fact that I'm before you and not before the Board of Appeals, which I normally would be on a UDO. So at any rate, that's why I was forget that.
That's why I was asking. I just want to confirm that we were in the right venue.
I flew in late last night from Scotland, so I've still got a little bit of jet lag here, guys. So
Oh, wow.
a little
No.
bit of slack, okay?
Yeah, good for you. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions I have right now. Did Mr. Sears, are you good? Do you want to add anything?
No, thank you. I have nothing additional to add.
Okay, great. Wes, anything?
Just kind of highlight a couple things. Like we typically do support shifting of the allowed signage to facades that don't front on a street, and that's what's happening in this case. This case also, is just kind of replacing that signage that was approved previously. And as Ann mentioned, the size of the amount of the signage on the south facade is substantially less than what's there. The other signage on the other facades that do have street frontage have conforming sizes, and the overall total of signage is conforming. That's kind of, the highlight additional information. I do have a question though about the signage being, is it typically on overnight, like when the store is closed? And the reason I asked that is the sign D at the corner faces residential area. And I was just kind of curious about if that maybe could be put on a timer corresponding to the hours of the store, maybe. I don't know, because that signage is larger than what's there now. I mean, it's conforming, but just was curious about how you guys handle that typically for overnight hours kind of thing. So.
Yeah, Eric, you might be better able to answer that, but that's the sign that's going to be on Salvador on that clipped corner of the building.
So typically the lighting would be on from dusk to dawn, so overnight. Yeah. Now if we're running into light bleed, now they're not projecting signs, they're backlit signs. I understand that they're larger than the existing ones, but as far as like they don't throw light, they are just kind of lit up. I would say if it is an issue, we can certainly look at not lighting that specific sign up, the one that faces the residential. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just be, I actually live nearby, so I actually walk to the store, I ride my bike to the store and all that. But I just was curious about what your typical policy or how you handle that. So I mean, if there's any concerns later on that residents, bring up or whatever, then I mean, there might be something that would be nice to consider on your part to.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we can definitely keep that in mind. If we do begin to see complaints from the residents, we can certainly look at alternative options to disconnect that specific sign. Yeah.
And just an FYI, that issue was not brought up by the community council, and they had a full house that night. They were voting on some grant programs, so they must have had 25 or 30 people there that night. So.
And to be clear, Wes, that internal illumination is allowed on that sign, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Great. Thanks, Wes. Appreciate your testimony and your work on the staff report. Ms. McBride, anything in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report. Based on that and based on the testimony here today, I think in light of the fact that signage is coming more into compliance, this is a special property and a special type of use adjacent to a large parking lot. I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code to this particular application. So I'm going to approve the application. I need to formalize that approval. Ms. McBride, as you know, in a written decision, I said at the beginning, 2 weeks, I am going to do everything I can to get it out to you as quickly as possible. Anna's aware that I'm a little bit behind on my queue. Sort of ironically, I've over the past 2 years been working on zoning reform legislation that sort of has come to a head over the last 2 weeks. I just crossed the last hurdle of that and submitted the legislation. For anyone that follows zoning, I guess I know Ann and Wes, but yeah, the the idea of the legislation actually is the ironic part is that it's supposed to reduce the amount of hearings that are necessary, but it has stretched me a little bit thin. And so I think 2 to 3 weeks is a realistic expectation. I'll do, like I said, I'll do everything I can to get that out to you as soon as possible. But I have a little bit of a built-up queue that I need to work through, and I should be able to meaningfully attack that over the next week or so. Sorry for that. Sorry for the long diatribe there, but any questions? As soon as I finish this, I'll put it into a PDF. I'll email it to everybody in the hearing. You'll have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete, and you guys will be able to move forward. Any questions on any of that?
David?
Sure.
I just want to suggest to Ann that you go ahead and submit for your permit for the signage, because I can approve that. Well, you know, the building code reviewers take a couple of weeks to do their review. So if you submit fairly soon, that'll be getting into their queue. And by the time David writes his opinion, then I can approve the zoning, and you'll already be in the queue for permit review. If you're interested in moving that part of it forward.
Kroger is always interested in moving things forward quickly, so we will do that. Thank you very much today, guys. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks everyone again for your time, your testimony. If you have any questions or like a status update on the decision, just feel free to reach out. Happy to provide that to you. Hope everyone has a wonderful day. Good luck with the project, and